They excavated billions of tons of rock and soil beneath the English Channel. Years later, this fact still leaves people utterly astonished. Welcome to the latest issue of Top Secret. Many years ago, a colossal amount of soil and rock, amounting to billions of tons, was excavated from the seabed off Britain, opening a mysterious path connecting two nations. But no one could have guessed that hidden behind that colossal structure lay a secret that would astonish the entire world. Dark secrets, shocking conspiracies, and horrifying consequences are successively exposed, sending chills down the spine of anyone who learns of them. Beneath that vast ocean carpet, what is truly unfolding? The colossal bridge connecting the two shores gives wings to dreams. In the late 1980s, construction began on the Saigon River Tunnel. British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher described this as the most exciting and promising development in Europe. This is understandable, as the dream of connecting the United Kingdom to the European continent via a tunnel had been nurtured since as far back as the 19th century. And now, that dream has become a reality. However, the price paid for it was not small. Initially, the projected cost was only around £5.5 billion, but the final actual figure ended up reaching £9 billion. At current monetary values, this project cost £22.6 billion, equivalent to approximately $28.5 billion. Although this figure is already substantial, financial issues are not the sole reason the project has become controversial. A far more serious issue remains. How exactly did the explosion in the tunnel occur? Beneath that story lie profound secrets, far beyond what anyone had ever imagined. Surface lie human-made technical marvels, showcasing humanity. The Tanner Strait, also known as Eurotunnel, is a unique engineering marvel, a subsea tunnel connecting the United Kingdom and France. With a total length of 50 kilometers, this tunnel has the world's longest undersea section, measuring up to 37 kilometers. This is the world's longest underwater tunnel and simultaneously the third longest railway tunnel globally. This tunnel connects the town of Fuchton in England's Kent County with the French town of Coquelles. At its deepest point, it lies 75 meters above the seabed and 115 meters below the sea surface. The structure was built over a period of 6 years through a collaboration between 5 British construction companies and 5 French construction companies. Channel Tanner was officially inaugurated in 1994, creating a unique land border crossing between the UK and France. This tunnel provides 3 main services for transporting passengers by high-speed train between London and Paris. Brussels, Amtech, freight transport by rail and road transport services for cars and trucks via the Fuchton and Coquelles Tunnel railway line. In 2017, with a maximum speed of 160 km per hour, this tunnel served over 21 million passengers and transported 22.5 million tons of cargo. The Channel Tunnel handles approximately 60% of the cross-channel freight transport and moves up to 95% of goods using specialized rail freight services. The tunnel is currently operated by Eurotunnel under a concession contract granted by the British and French governments, which is valid until 2086. Many people often wonder if they can see the ocean floor when passing through an undersea tunnel, but the truth might leave them quite disappointed. The actual journey through the Channel Tunnel is rather uneventful and not as exciting as many people imagine. When mentioning the Channel Tunnel, the structure connecting England and France beneath the seabed, many people immediately envision the mysterious scene of the deep blue ocean. In their imagination, while riding on the Eurostar train, they could freely admire schools of fish swimming or the vast, endlessly stretching ocean floor through the train car's large window. But the reality was completely the opposite as the Lewonwood train passed through the tunnel. Looking out the window, I only saw my own reflection in the glass, for outside the night was pitch black. The more observant might catch a glimpse of the reinforced concrete tunnel walls, but it was hardly the picturesque scene they had imagined. Therefore, many people feel disappointed to realize that traveling through the Channel Tunnel is no different from riding an endlessly long subway train. However, instead of being disappointed about not being able to see the ocean floor, let us together explore this magnificent construction. Digging tunnels beneath the sea has never been an easy task, and this is even more true for a project of such colossal scale as the Channel Tunnel. The idea of building a tunnel connecting England and France had actually been conceived as far back as 1802. At that time, French engineer Henri Mathieu proposed building an artificial island in the middle of the English Channel to serve as a stopover for trains to change their horse-drawn carriages. This idea was exceptionally bold and visionary for its time, but it immediately encountered fierce opposition from British political circles and the media, stemming from national security concerns. The relationship between Britain and France has not always been smooth, and the construction of a tunnel connecting the two countries was once considered a serious strategic threat. By the end of the 19th century, this bold idea was revived with a proposal to dig a tunnel under the sea connecting the two shores. Even though construction had already commenced, the British military intervened shortly thereafter and demanded an immediate halt. They fear that this tunnel could become an infiltration route for enemy troops. After many tense negotiations and having to wait until aviation technology was sufficiently advanced, the militaries and governments of the two countries were finally able to reach a mutual agreement. After 25 years of discussion, the project finally broke ground in the late 1980s. The feat of building beneath the sea. To dig a tunnel 25 meters below sea level, engineers had to overcome countless complex technical and geological challenges. This transnational project has become increasingly complex due to the constantly shifting political situations in both countries, significantly impacting the overall progress. Finally, the work was undertaken jointly by both the British and French sides. A total of 11 massive tunnel boring machines were used to cut through the dense chalk rock, constructing not just one but two railway tunnels, along with a central service tunnel for maintenance and safety. At its peak, the project mobilized up to 15,000 workers and incurred daily costs exceeding 80 billion Vietnamese dongs. To complete this project, billions of tons of soil and rock had to be excavated at a total cost of approximately 280 trillion Vietnamese dongs, double the initial estimated figure. Success largely depends on a deep understanding of the area. They need to precisely determine the location where excavation can be carried out and the method of implementation to ensure absolute safety. The most difficult thing is the lack of practical experience to learn from and compare against. At that time, the world had only one other undersea tunnel of a similar scale: Japan's Seikan Tunnel, which opened in 1988. Moreover, there are constant dangers lurking right beneath the seabed, posing a direct threat to the lives of the tunnel workers. If the ground is weak or an incident occurs, seawater can intrude at any moment. This requires extremely precise calculations and the application of strictly rigorous construction techniques to ensure absolute safety. Fortunately, the project was a resounding success. The earth and rock excavated during construction were repurposed to create the Samphire Ho Nature Reserve, situated at the foot of the famous White Cliffs of Dover. This vast reserve spans a significant area, where 5 million cubic meters of chalk rock form a majestic natural landscape along the British coastline. This is an unexpected reward after so much effort, and at the same time, proof of creativity in utilizing natural resources. However, despite being considered an engineering marvel, the Channel Tunnel has faced considerable controversy, particularly in the United Kingdom. The undersea tunnel is not merely a transportation project, but also has profound impacts on economic, political, and social aspects. To thoroughly grasp the issue, we must analyze the operational mechanisms of land border gates while evaluating their impacts on controlling illegal immigration. This is the crucial point and also the reason why many British people feel regretful that this tunnel was built. Ensuring security at train stations is facing numerous challenges and difficulties in control operations. At Eurostar stations, security checks are not as stringent as those at airports. The fundamental differences in design between train stations and airports, and between trains and airplanes, make it impossible for security screening measures to be applied with equal effectiveness. At the airport, passengers must undergo multiple stringent security checks, including baggage screening and identity verification, before boarding the aircraft. However, managing passengers at train stations is far more complex, due to the extremely high volume of people entering and exiting and the much more open space. A specific example is at the Gare du Nord station in France, where the design of the arrival area means border patrol forces can only check approximately 11% of passengers arriving from London. This means that nearly 90% of passengers entering France are not subject to thorough checks. This security loophole inadvertently makes Eurostar the easiest route for illegal immigrants to enter Britain from France, compared to other means of transport such as air or sea. Lee's Gap. Specifically, some Eurostar trains from Brussels to London will stop at Lille or Calais. Passengers boarding from Brooklyn and disembarking at Le Havre remain within the same border zone and are therefore exempt from inspection procedures. This inadvertently creates opportunities for those seeking to exploit legal loopholes to enter the UK illegally. Belgian police also did not allow the UK border force at the joint checkpoint in Brooklands, a location near the port of Calais, to conduct document checks on these passengers, as long as they have a valid ticket from Brooklyn to Le or Calais. Even in 2011, Belgian police arrested a British border officer for attempting to check the documents of several suspicious passengers. This leads to a situation where some people only need to buy a ticket from Brooklyn to Le or Calais. After that, I boarded the train without being checked and continued my journey to England smoothly, without encountering any obstacles. As a result, many people managed to reach England and successfully applied for asylum. After the vulnerability was discovered in late 2011, Eurostar has temporarily suspended ticket sales for the Brussels-Zeebrugge rail route to prevent illegal immigration. However, tickets for this route are still being sold, allowing some individuals to continue exploiting this loophole. After that, the company resumed ticket sales but limited it to only 3 trips per day for more convenient management. The ticket inspector checked tickets on the train before arriving in Calais and required passengers without a valid ticket to leave the train. At the same time, the British Border Force also conducted thorough document checks on passengers as the train arrived at the Pencrath high-speed station in London. To prevent any possibility of circumventing the regulations, passengers from Bruxelles traveling to Lille or Calais are required to move through a separate departure area at Bruxelles station and sit in a train carriage designated specifically for them. Throughout the journey, the train cars were constantly under strict surveillance by security personnel. This measure has helped curb the issue of illegal immigration. However, the problem has yet to be resolved completely. Despite the gap being sealed, illegal immigrants continue to find every possible way to cross the border into the UK. As it is an island nation, one can only arrive here by 3 main routes: by air, by sea, or through the tunnel under the English Channel. Among these 3 methods, air travel was ruled out from the very beginning due to overly strict security procedures, which made it impossible to board a flight without valid documentation. Hiding by clinging to the outside of an airplane is nearly impossible. Therefore, only 2 feasible options remain: the sea route and the Trans-Sea Tunnel. However, sea travel often faces strict controls at ports, so tunnels are frequently chosen by illegal immigrants due to less scrutiny. This is also the only road connection between mainland Europe and the United Kingdom. Since the Yugoslav wars of the 1990s, a growing number of people have been flocking to the city of Calais with the hope of finding a way to cross the border into the UK via the tunnel. Some people risk their lives to sneak into England by hiding in trucks or freight cars. Some even risk their lives by dashing across the pedestrian tunnel, disregarding the mortal danger. Previously, this tunnel was only loosely barricaded to keep wild animals out. No one ever expected someone would deliberately break in. Therefore, the security system here was promptly reinforced with stronger barriers, along with stringent protective measures such as installing surveillance cameras, increasing patrol frequency, and deploying guard dogs. However, achieving thorough control remains a significant challenge, as the number of illegal immigrants continues to rise, accompanied by increasingly sophisticated methods of crossing the border. Those wishing to reach Britain still refuse to give up. They continuously seek new methods to circumvent the law and sneak into the country. This poses a major challenge for both the British and French authorities in controlling illegal immigration through the Channel Tunnel. Measures to enhance security and the challenges in preventing illegal immigration. In response to the situation of illegal immigrants deliberately crossing the Channel Tunnel under the English Channel, Eurotunnel was forced to implement a series of strict security measures. Initially, the fence system had only 2 layers, which was later reinforced to 3 layers. All fence layers are equipped with infrared sensors directly connected to the monitoring system and are surrounded by barbed wire to prevent any intrusion. In the summer of 2001, Eurotunnel launched a campaign called Operation Zero with the goal of enhancing security in the area. They built an incredibly sturdy steel cable fence, nearly impossible to cut through. The company also installed control gates at the bridges leading into the station area and recruited an additional 60 security personnel. The total cost for this campaign is approximately $4,720,000 United States dollars. However, no matter how stringent the protective measures are, illegal immigrants still do not abandon their intention to cross the border. These measures only make the act of crossing the border more difficult and dangerous, but cannot completely prevent it. The incursions continue to persist, not only causing local tensions but also negatively impacting the diplomatic relations between France and the United Kingdom. To address this situation, a new agreement was signed in 2016 to further enhance security assurance efforts. The old barriers were reinforced, new fences were erected, 100 hectares of land were cleared to install surveillance systems, and several areas were flooded to create natural obstacles. However, all efforts still could not completely stop the flow of illegal immigrants. July 2015 witnessed one of the largest mass attempts to cross the border, when approximately 2,000 people simultaneously tried to storm the Channel Tunnel terminal in Calais in an effort to reach the UK. Eurotunnel said many people were injured in the incident, although it did not disclose further specific details. However, injury is just one of the few potential risks. The reality is even more heartbreaking when considering that during that summer alone, at least 8 people lost their lives attempting to cross through this tunnel. And sadly, these were not isolated incidents. In any activity, alongside the benefits achieved, there always exist unpredictable potential risks. Fully aware of this, proactively implementing preventive measures and ensuring safety is a critical task, requiring serious investment of both effort and resources. The French sector of the Eurotunnel spans an area of over 647 hectares, forming an extension